that, you'll see 2 plus 8 plus 2 is 12. Those were the government savings we were going to get from imposing, which is now in place, a hiring freeze, a soft freeze, so that we are reviewing every single position before we fill it. We're estimating for $2 million in retirement savings, a minimum of $2 million in savings in the health insurance program, and a minimum of $2 million of savings in personal service contracts in FY12 as well. So that gets you to 35. We are proposing, the last one that you'll see down there is basically that several years ago the maintenance of rest areas was shifted from the transportation fund to the general fund. Some of this is maybe like a little inside talk here, but we are proposing to continue with the JTOC process of moving non-transportation related programs back to the general fund, so the JTOC process. But we believe that the maintenance of rest areas is a legitimate transportation fund locus for payment of rest areas. So that saves $4 million in the general fund right there. There are additional, the Secretary of Transportation, we can get into this later if you'd like to, but this should not have an impact on our FY12 transportation program. And we feel it is the right place to pay for the maintenance of the rest areas for the motoring public. So, and then the .92 is just basically actual,
utilization changes. This has no programmatic impact, and that's both in the current use in the homeowners municipal rebate program.
So that takes us to the $110.3 of actions, and we actually do. I think we should probably, Jim, hand out the
let me just quickly step through the ups.
Okay. All right.
Talk about the two items down at the bottom of the page, and then go to human services adjustments to step us down. The next is in the budget stabilization reserve. We need to add an additional $3.2 million to that to continue to meet our statutory 5% reserve. So that's going to cost us in 2012 an additional $3.2 million. We had a significant upgrade in revenues, as most of you probably recall, in FY 2011 at the emergency board meeting held a couple weeks ago, at $27.1 million. We also had some remaining funds left on the bottom line for 11. We're suggesting that $29 million of available funds from FY11 be used to offset our needs in FY 2012.
Can I just ask, if the budget is, the general fund is actually going down, why do you need extra money for the reserve? Why don't you want money?
Because general fund and general fund equivalent, ARRA, is going down.
We didn't reserve
the actual
for the ARRA
general
funds.
fund, Nancy, is going up. Actual general fund is going up. When you compare general fund and general fund equivalent ARRA, it is going down. But the actual general fund is going up from 11 to 12 by about 7%, but it's not enough to obviously offset the loss of ARRA funds, and you will see that on. Let me just quickly grab that page.
No, I don't mean to bog it down.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we are, and listen, man, what the governor has said is he wants to present a budget that's balanced, that relies on a minimum of one-time funds. We are using some carry forward from 2011 because we really, without causing more pain than I think it would be appropriate for the state and the most vulnerable Vermonters, we are having to step down off to that federal assistance with some use of the FY11 increased revenues.
That's correct.
And I would say at the same time, this budget does not propose to access the budget stabilization or rainy day funds. We felt that it was a more appropriate thing to do to use the carry forward or unanticipated revenues that came in 2011 and not to access the reserve funds those, you know, frankly, the governor, and I think some of you were at the news conference, said that if he could be shown that, that we could refill those in FY 2013 or even 14, that maybe that was something to consider. When we got the revised revenue forecast and our 3% projected, you know, growth rate going forward, we could not demonstrate that for them. And since, you know, the rating agencies have said that, you know, one of the things that would cause us a problem would be if we depleted the reserves without being able to demonstrate that we could refill them, that would be a problem. We chose not to go down that road.
Nancy, just so you'll see that on page 34. Just want to mark that.
Jeb, you said no use of rainy day funds?
Yes,
that's correct. Now, if I can just step you up on the base pressures. We've already talked about the federal money, and most of the donor pressures exclusive of human services. Quickly on where human service caseload and utilization is requiring us to add an additional $28.5 million for caseload and utilization in human services. Other human service pressures are $38.6 million. The next pressure is the restoration of the education fund transfer and plus growth. Is, if you remember a couple of years ago, is when we got into a revenue decline late in the legislative session. The legislature reduced the education fund transfer by $18 million and said at a later date that they would restore that. So the upward pressure of 21.8 is really that 18 million plus the growth in the ed fund transfer according to statute.
So Jim, if we could, just so while we're on the education fund, so you see the 21.77, and then, yeah, why don't you go through the whole thing here? So
okay, let me step you from where we are with the ed fund transfer to what we're proposing in 2012.
Okay.
The ed fund transfer for FY 2011 is $234.8 million. You add the upward pressure of 21.8 that I just described to you. You then go down under the loss of offsetting ARRA money.
So just past half, you see the number there, 38.
Right, 38.6. That would get you to a general fund transfer to the ed fund of about $295 million. Then, as the Secretary of Administration describes to you, under the challenge for change, the general fund transfer to the ed fund is reduced by about $23.2 million, so that the governor's recommended transfer from the general fund to the ed fund for FY 2012 is about $271.9 million. So that's how you step from 11 to 12 on the ed fund transfer.
And even still, I mean, a part of our upward pressures there is basically, you know, having to make up for the loss of federal funds. Two big pieces of 120 in human services and close to 40 in education.
This might be a good time to just say, despite this difficult economic environment, particularly stepping down out from a significant amount of federal funds, is we have increased the ed fund transfer by $37.1 million. From 2011-2012, we've met some workforce needs in the areas of protection, the public defender, court diversion, in the Agency of Natural Resources in terms of environmental conservation, as well as continue to fund the requirement that was under S13 for DNA analysis in public safety, and we have addressed mandatory caseload increases in the Agency of Human Services, as well as some other human services needs. The next item is $1.1 million, if I can go back to this sheet, for education, the early education initiative. In FY 2011, the early education initiative was paid for out of the ed fund. It was required to go back to the general fund in FY 2012. So that's the additional pressure to the education department of about $1.1 million. that switches from the education fund to a general fund pressure in 2012. The next item is about $8.3 million to fully fund the state employees and state teachers' retirement systems. The next item is the, as you know, we borrow money from the federal government for unemployment insurance payments. And beginning in the fall, I think of 2011, we're gonna have to start paying back some, and that's the unemployment insurance interest repayment, estimated to be $4.1 million. Next item is the item that the Secretary alluded to, is to continue to reduce the general fund's reliance on transportation funds for non-core transportation purposes of $2.3 million. The next item is a combination of items including increases in internal service funds, increases in statewide insurance charges, such as liability, property, and auto, et cetera, and that's about $2 million of upward pressure. There's an additional $1.1 million of upward pressure in in protection. And that includes funding the requirements of S-113, which is the DNA, that goes into effect July 1st. It is shoring up the Criminal Justice Training Council. It is adding some money for workload demands in the Public Defender's Office, and I alluded to some caseload increases in court diversion. That's the $1.1 million. Next item, and you probably want to weigh in on this, is the transfer to the Vermont Telecom Authority. It was $300,000 of general fund was transferred to the Telecom Authority in FY 2011. We are proposing that transfer be $1.2 million in FY 2012 in order to facilitate and enhance operations for the purpose of Connect Vermont, the governor's aggressive plan.
Yeah, what I'm thinking here is, and listen, I'm looking to see what kind of reaction. I mean, do you want to go through this detail, or do you want to hear some of the major, the big moving parts here for the sake of time, and how it fits with the governor's agenda?
Big moving parts.
The bigger
The
part?
numbers we can look at in depth.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think that's important. I mean, while we're mentioning the Connect Vermont, I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff. As sobering as a lot of this is, there's a lot of good stuff in here. And the governor, as you know, has laid down a marker saying he wants broadband and mobile services everywhere in the state by the end of 2013. And we are proposing in the capital bill 2 years of $13 million of the state's general obligation bond. These are not the revenue bonds in the VTA. $13 million of general obligation bonds to support extension of fiber and mobile services into underserved portions of the state. That will help us to be able to actually utilize the $40 million of revenue bonds that the VTA currently has, and we're increasing their budget and really giving the Vermont Telecommunications Authority specific instructions and leadership on speeding up the process in conjunction with working with both the regulatory and permitting process to accelerate the progress in extending broadband statewide and cell services. But so I did want to mention that, and I think, just for the sake of discussion here, I think we ought to get to the actions for human services. And one important thing here, that the governor, as you know, has a big time healthcare agenda, and we are proposing, and he is proposing in his budget a significant structural change in how we provide our healthcare, subsidized healthcare now, that will be consistent with the direction that he wants to take the state. And in our budget proposal, we are proposing to fold the Catamount healthcare program into VHAP. So this would be essentially the end of Catamount as we know it, and the current participants in the Catamount plan, which you know many people in the room can explain better than I can, but it relies more of a private model into VHAP, and the benefits are roughly equivalent. But this move will get more people into a single pool, and that move saves $5 million in the first year. And Matt, is that annual there, or is that the partial year on that?
That's a 3/4 of the year.
3/4 year, so it'll be saving more money, but in the first year, $5 million, because we can't get it quite up and running by the 1st of July. But that's a